Hello and welcome to this webinar. Today we're going to be looking at toilet learning, choosing the right time to start with myself, Laura Morley. And I just want to say thank you so much for finding the time in your really, really busy day. And I appreciate being a parent is always really busy. Having 3 kids of my own, I completely understand. But I just know that this workshop is going to be so useful that it's totally going to be worth your time. Now, I really encourage you to go and grab your iPhone or your tablet, or go and grab a piece of paper and a pen and get ready to take some great notes, because I think you're going to find some really, really useful, actionable steps that you can take. Now, if you haven't already, I encourage you to turn off Facebook, close down your YouTube and whatever applications you have open, because I find that I get the most out of webinars if I'm actually focused and totally listening and all my attention on what is happening in the webinar. And in fact, I'll often get distracted and go off onto my emails and start checking those and then find that I've missed half the webinar. So I do encourage you to get the most out of this, is to take some notes and feel free to work through the process together with me. Now, you're in the right place if you're ready to start toilet training, but are not sure what to do and where to start. You want to save money by saying goodbye to daytime nappies. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Then you could use the money for something else that your child needs. Or maybe you could save it for a holiday or do something else. So saving money is a really, really good thing when it comes to the toilet training process. You're in the right place if you are expecting another baby and you'd like to toilet train your toddler. Or maybe you have a child who's in daycare and you wonder how you're going to toilet train. Maybe you have a nanny or an au pair. Maybe you have in-home childcare. Maybe your child goes to daycare. Maybe they go to Nana's house quite often. And you're just wondering, if there's multiple people looking after your child, how are you going to fit toilet training into that scenario and how that is going to work? And we'll talk that through a little bit later. I encourage you to stay right to the end of this webinar, because I'm going to show you how you can get your hands on this free ebook called Potty Talk. It's my gift to you, and it's a toilet training how-to guide, which I've put all of my ideas, all of the things that people ask me at private consultations and workshops, the things that are really relevant, and being able to walk you through the whole process. And it's kind of like I take you by the hand and say, okay, this is what you need to do next, and have you thought about that? And if you're having trouble in this area, then try this. And it really is a step-by-step guide. I'm also going to show you my brand new ecourse. It's a program that I've been working on for a while now, and because I've been doing workshops for the past 7 years, I find that there are some things that come up again and again for parents and for families looking to navigate this stage. And so I've put it all into a really fantastic e-course where I'll show you 3 proven adaptable methods that actually work, and secrets to motivating your child to do the business on the toilet and not on your carpet, which is ultimately what we're all aiming for, isn't it? So if you haven't met me before through Toddler Talk or through Lulu, then I want to introduce myself and say hi. I live in Auckland in New Zealand. So if you're from overseas, then a special welcome to you today on our webinar. I have a family of 3 children. As you can see there, I've got 2 boys and a little girl. And I love looking at this photo because it reminds me of just logistically how full on it is to actually get a really lovely family photo where everybody's looking at the camera and all smiling. That's my daughter. She was quite big when she was born, so she's actually only a few months old there, but she looks quite big and beautiful, which I just think is just so lovely. And my 2 beautiful boys, who were bundles of boisterous energy that day, so it was quite tricky to get them to sit still long enough to get a photo, but we did it, and it was definitely worth it. So I started a company called Lulu, and we help people by giving them advice and services and sell really fantastic products to be able to help parents through the journey. And I'm also on Facebook and YouTube if you want to check out Lulu. This is a picture of my family now. We live at the beach, and we absolutely love our life. We love going out on the boat or going for walks, riding the horse, getting out and about. We're quite active, and now my kids are a lot older, so I've got an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. But I very much remember the journey that I've been on in terms of the toilet training process and taking each of them through. If I'm not riding my horse or at the beach or hanging out with the family, then I'm probably running some kind of workshop, because I really love teaching and inspiring and encouraging other parents. And you can see here, this is a recent workshop that I ran, and on the side there is Diane Levy, who we ran the workshop with, and some other seminar presenters. And I also really enjoy doing private coaching. So I have quite a few private coaching clients that will come and see me, particularly if they're having issues with toilet training and they want an individual plan. And if that's the case for you today, then I do encourage you to jump on lulu.co.nz/contact and let me know how I can help you if you want some one-on-one help. Now, with toilet training, it's not rocket science, but there are things that parents can do to make it easier. And I'm going to show you what some of those things are. Choosing the right time is one key determining factor on how long it's going to take to toilet train your child. You might have already seen my top tips countdown, 4 ways to help toilet train your child faster. And in that countdown, I talk about the importance of choosing the right time. And that's what we're going to be focusing on in our workshop today. Now, before we get started, I want you to have a bit of time to reflect on where you're at on the journey. Are you at the start of the journey where your child actually doesn't say the word wheeze or poos or acknowledge the fact that they have a wet nappy that they need changing? Are you at the beginning of the journey where they don't have a potty? Or maybe you're a bit further along the journey where actually they do have a potty. Maybe they sit on it occasionally. Maybe they like putting their toys on it. Maybe they like playing on it, but they're not actually doing anything on it. Or maybe you're a bit further along where they do sit on the potty or the toilet, but you're coming across some issues where they're either not doing the business on it or they're not motivated about it. Where are you exactly in the journey with your toddler? Our journey as a family has been a really, really interesting one. And interesting is definitely the operative word. When it came to toilet training, I started toilet training my oldest child because I really wanted him to get into this private kindy. And he would have been about 2.5 at the time. And when I went to the kindy and we had a look round, they said, it's great that you want to come, but your child will need to be toilet trained before they come. We find it easier if the children are toilet trained because then we spend less time in the toilet and more time educating and playing with your child. So I knew that we had a long weekend coming up where my husband had 4 days at home. It was Labour weekend, which is in October over here in New Zealand. And he had this time at home, and I thought that would be perfect. With both of us being home on this long weekend, we could nail it. I rang my mum and said, oh, Mum, I'm going to toilet train this weekend. And we went out and got a potty and we got some big boy undies and we decided that it was going to be all go. And, I thought, well, my son's 2.5, so I think I've waited long enough, and I think now is going to just be the perfect time. With spring being here, the weather's a little bit warmer, and I just feel like we're ready. I also found that my friends who had kids of a similar age in our coffee group were toilet training. And to be completely honest with you, I was really, really tired of changing nappies for 2 kids, because at the time I had a 6-week-old baby. Wow, I can tell you that toilet training was an absolute mission. The wheels totally fell off and things did not go the way I expected at all. I just didn't know what to do next. The problem was I'd been to this workshop with all these other parents, and it was at a local hall near where we lived. And it was with a psychologist, and he had taught us a way of toilet training. The problem was that my son just didn't seem to connect or click with these things, and I just didn't know what to do next. It's like, well, I tried everything that I knew, and I kind of felt like I'd come to a dead end. I found that sometimes my child was happy to use the potty or the loo, but at other times he just flatly refused. And as a result, we ended up having a lot of puddles in the lounge and in the dining room and actually in most rooms of the house. And I just wasn't sure what to do next. I really wanted to go out to places, but I was really nervous about him having accidents if we went to a friend's house for a coffee, or if we went to the shopping mall, or if we went to the park, because he wasn't really compliant with using the toilet, and he wasn't really potty trained properly, I was worried that if we went to someone else's house, like say my mum's house, for example, he'd end up having accidents, and then we'd have to, have the embarrassment of having to clean it up, and it was just really, really inconvenient. So it was like, well, we either stay home and get this nailed, or we're going to go out and have heaps of accidents, and I'm not that keen on that. Things didn't go the way I expected, and I found it really tricky to juggle a 6-week-old baby and try and toilet train my toddler at the same time. And I think if I look back in hindsight, I chose the wrong time to start. Even though it was convenient in terms of it was warmer, and I felt pressure because I wanted him to get into kindy, and I thought that with my husband being home, it would be easier. The problem was that my toddler just wasn't ready, and I was still at a point where my baby was getting up at night. I was needing to breastfeed a lot, so I would be sitting down on the couch and be feeding my baby, and the toddler would be, needing to go to the toilet, and how would I balance that? And I realized that in hindsight, I should have waited until the baby was a bit older and I was getting full nights of sleep, and where my toddler was actually a lot more ready. So I want to help you to avoid the mistakes that I made so that you don't have the same problem when it comes to toilet training. And the way that I'll do that is I want to share with you my blueprint that helped me to navigate this stage. And most of all, I just want to give you the gift of confidence with ideas that actually work, not the theoretical ones, or not the ones that you read about in blogs or ideas on Google when you try and Google these things, but ideas that practically actually work. So what we're going to cover today in our workshop is we're going to look at the signs of readiness. Are there any things in your child's behaviour that they're showing you that actually, Mum, Dad, it's time, I'm ready to start getting out of nappies and start using the toilet? Now, the more of these signs of readiness you have, the easier you're going to find toilet training, because they're going to be in a season or a time of their life which is the optimum time. And if you can look for these signs of readiness, you're just going to find it a lot easier. So as well as looking at the right time, we're also going to look at toilet training when there is another baby due, or you're juggling paid work while toilet training your toddler. So maybe you're working outside of the household, and maybe there's a couple of people that look after your child in a week. And so the question is how do you build toilet training into an already really busy schedule? How are you going to do it so it's really successful? We're also going to give you some ideas today about things that you can start straight away to make toilet training easier. So even if you come out of this workshop and you think, I don't think my child's quite ready to start toilet training, that's okay. Lots and lots of people will come to me and say, okay, my kid's about 16 or 18 months. Is it the right time to start toilet training? And I always say, well, come and do this webinar, or come and work with me for a little bit. And then they'll actually look and they'll say, okay, I can see that it's just not going to be the right time. And they'll explain to me why those things are. But then I give them actionable steps that you can actually take away. And that's what I'm going to do with you today as well, where you can actually start to transition your child and make that process a lot smoother for them, so that when they are ready, they've already got a whole lot of underlying skills that will make it easier. So we're going to do a little activity now. I want you to have a think about how many nappies that you've already changed today. How many nappies has your child used this week? Now, if you can write that down and then multiply that by 4, then you're going to get how many they've used this month. How many nappies have they been using? And then the last thing is to multiply that by 12 to work out, over the period of a year, how many nappies on average is your child going to be using? Now, I want you to hold on to that number because we're going to discuss it later on in the workshop. But it's very, very good to be able to actually go through and take stock about how many nappy changes you're actually doing. And I appreciate as they get older, you tend to do a few less nappy changes. It's not like when they were newborns and they were having nappy changes all the time. But certainly you'll see that we end up doing a lot of nappy changing with our kids. Or if you're American, I guess you'd be saying diaper changes. A lot of parents will come to me and they'll say, look, Laura, I think I might have missed the magic window. I think that my child was really, really ready and they were showing an interest, and I didn't really foster it, either because it wasn't the right time for me or because I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm a bit worried that I might have missed the window of opportunity. My answer to them is always this, and it's the same answer for you as well. Readiness for toilet training is not an age, but rather a stage. So don't be worried about if someone's saying to you, oh, your child is a certain number, like say they say, oh, your child's 18 months, or they're 2, or they're 2.5, or whatever the number is that is your child's age. Remember that readiness for toilet training is actually not a particular age, it's rather a developmental stage. And because of that, there's different kids that are ready at different times, and it's a matter of identifying what those times are and going with that at the right time. But if it's not going to be right because you know that there's things that are coming up in your world, there's going to be interruptions, and it's just not going to be ideal, there will be other windows of opportunity, and don't feel like you've missed it. The optimum soil for the toilet learning process is actually that your child is physically ready. So they physically are able to pull up and push down their pants, they're physically able to hold on to urine, they're physically able to sit on a potty or toilet, all of those things. And for most kids, they can do most of those things when they're reasonably young. But what holds us back is actually the second thing, which is the behavioural readiness and motivation. So your child can actually hold on to urine, but if they don't want to put that urine into the toilet or the potty, then they're not motivated, and therefore they're not really ready. So we're going to look at what some of the signs are that you need to see from your child, the behaviour that they need to be showing you, where they're kind of giving you a flag to say, hey, mum, dad, I'm ready now. The most important one is actually that your child has bladder control. Because if you're trying to toilet train a child who doesn't have bladder control, then it's going to be incredibly difficult. And really the optimum would be for them to have bladder control for approximately 1.5 to 2 hours. Now you know that they have bladder control because you can put them in knickers or undies and let them run around and see how often they're weeing. You might notice that they wake up dry from an afternoon sleep. Or maybe you could put them in nappies that have characters on the front that blur when there's a wee. And if you can start identifying and becoming aware of the times when they're weeing or the amount of time between wees, then you'll notice whether they have bladder control or not. Now, don't be concerned when you start toilet training and you find that they wee really, really often. The first 3 or 4 days, that's really common for them to be able to get their head round how it all works. They will often wee more frequently than every 1.5 to 2 hours. But at least if you start the process knowing that they have bladder control, you're going to find it a whole lot easier. The second thing to write down on your piece of paper is awareness. So the first thing is bladder control and the second is awareness. Now you might have a kid who already brings up some wipes in a nappy and wants to be changed right now because they're aware of the fact that they're wet and that they don't want to be. Maybe you have a child who lets you know when you're doing a nappy change that they've done a poo or a wee. Or maybe you've got a child who stops and even pauses during a bowel movement. They might take themselves off to a quiet spot. So maybe they like doing their poos behind the couch or down in their bedroom or, somewhere with a little bit of privacy. Now, if you've got that kind of child, then that's fantastic because if they're taking themselves off to a quiet spot, then they're actually preempting and thinking, oh, I'm going to do a poo. I better go behind the couch. And it actually means that it's a lot easier. But I wouldn't stop the toilet training journey and say, I'm not going to start until they're preempting, because not every kid does this. Not every kid is going to wave a big flag and say, hey, I'm going to do a wee. Can you please take me to the toilet? But the toilet training process actually teaches them to connect brain with bladder and to understand their body signals. And it's going through that process that they're going to become more aware. Another sign of readiness is that they can follow simple instructions. Basically, it's because there's a whole lot of steps that you have to do in order to actually go to the toilet. So if they can follow things step by step, then that really helps. Now, can follow simple instructions and will follow simple instructions are two different things. But if generally they can do things in order, step by step, then they're going to be okay with toilet training. Now, this is not essential, but it does help if your child can pull up and push down their pants. It also helps if they can communicate using language what they have done. So they might say, I've done a wee or I've done a poo, or if they can use the language of toilet training, then those two things do help. Again, they're not essential. You can toilet train children who are younger, who don't have really good language, or who aren't really good at pulling up and pushing down their pants. But this gives them a greater level of independence in the process if they can do these two things. Another thing that's not essential, but it does help if the weather is slightly warmer. It just means that you can get things dried quicker. So lots of people say, oh, well, I'm only going to toilet train in summer. But you do want to have a think about it. Are you going on a summer holiday? Are you going overseas? Are you going to be camping? Do you really want to be toilet training your child and having, multiple changes of clothes per day while you're camping? For most parents, they're going to say no. So what is a really good idea is to think, all right, what is the optimum time? And it might not necessarily be a season, but it's more looking for the signs of readiness and looking for the optimum time. So that's something to consider. So we're going to do a little parent questionnaire. So we've looked at some of the signs of readiness for your child being ready for the process. But are you ready? Because obviously you're going to be the cheerleader. You're going to be facilitating the whole process. And so you want to be in a point where you have no major changes as a parent. So I wonder, are you moving house or having major renovations coming up? Are you starting a new job, experiencing some kind of relationship tension, or having a baby within the next month? Now, I can tell you that if you're experiencing any of those things, then it's not the end of the world. That's life, right? But if you can put off toilet training to a time when you're not feeling tense, but rather a time when you're feeling really, really calm and settled, then you are going to be in a lot better space to be able to cope with it. And that brings me to the next thing. Are you feeling in a positive emotional space? It's a really good idea to have support from others. So if you start to find that your child's having lots of accidents and you start to get really frustrated, that you've actually got someone that you can talk to about it. When I was going through the toilet training process, I had this lovely friend who was at a play group, and we used to meet twice a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning, and we'd take our kids to this play group. We both had babies, and it was really good because the kids could just play with a whole lot of activities. We'd help tidy up at the end, and then we could all go home, and it wasn't like a big thing for me to have to worry about because everyone kind of had kids around a similar age, and all the toys were like really awesome, and the kids just loved it. And it was there that I made some really great friends, and I would come along to my Tuesday and Thursday morning group, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can continue. Yesterday was great, and then this morning we've already had 2 accidents, and I just don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And they were kind of there to be like that sounding board, I guess, to be like, oh, have you thought about trying this? And oh, I had exactly the same problem with my kid, but I just did this, and then it made it heaps better, and we just chatted through it. So instead of me getting really frustrated and angry when my child had accidents, I just felt really, really supported. And as I said, when I was starting toilet training my first child, because my husband was home, I found it really, really good to have him there as well. And so together we were able to kind of be a bit of a team, especially when I had another child to look after. So, we could kind of tag team a little bit. So having support from others is going to help you to feel a lot more calm. And this is also important if you're toilet training multiples. Because calm breeds calm. So if you feel confident and calm and you're not feeling anxious and frustrated, then your toddler is going to be able to sense that. And as a result, they're going to feel a lot more relaxed when it comes to the journey of toilet training. So we're going to take a little pit stop now. And I want to ask you, how many signs of readiness is your child showing? Could you tick off 3 things on your list? Are they only doing 1? Or maybe they're doing all of them? Have a look and have a bit of a time to have a reflection. And the second thing to reflect on is now the right time to start? I'm just going to give you a little bit of time to write down on your piece of paper and to have a think about those 2 questions. Great. I hope that you've enjoyed the opportunity just to take a little pause for a moment and just to reflect on the fact that choosing the right time is really going to matter. And the signs of readiness is really, really important. And as I said, the more of those you can tick off, the easier. You don't have to have all of them by any means, but the more, the better. We're going to look now at toilet training a toddler when a baby is due. So if there is another sibling that's going to be coming into your child's world pretty soon, then you want to look at it in terms of two perspectives. One is of the mother's perspective. Now, if the mother is going to be the primary trainer in terms of toilet training, then does she have the physical ability to get down on the floor 8 times a day and take pants on and off? Is she going to be able to clean up all the mess and deal with it? And has she got the emotional readiness? Now, for me personally, if I was going to try and toilet train my child in my 3rd trimester, I don't think I could have done it. I was really struggling to get on and off the floor, and I was feeling really big and tired, and I wasn't getting as much sleep as I normally would. I needed to go to the toilet a lot more often, and I was certainly very irritable. And so for me, it wouldn't have worked if I wanted to toilet train in that 3rd trimester. And that's something for you to consider if you're pregnant at this time, whether it's really going to work for you. But the most important consideration is actually your child, because they need to be in a normal routine. And that goes for everybody, whether you're pregnant or not. If you want to toilet train, then your child needs to be in a normal routine because they're a lot more settled that way. Is your child showing the signs of readiness? Just be aware of the fact that if there's any major changes, then your child can regress. So whether a baby arrives, or whether they move rooms at daycare, or whether there's some kind of separation where, your partner might be going away on a business trip, all of those things affect your child's emotions. And that then feeds into their behaviour. And quite often, the first thing that starts to regress or go can actually be their toileting habits. So it's a good idea if you can try and get their toileting habits really well established before there's any major changes. And you also have to ask the question of how they cope with change. Are they really adaptable? If they are, then toilet training when you're pregnant is probably a great idea. But if not, then it's better to wait. Okay, we're going to look now at working part-time or full-time out of the house for paid employment and how to juggle toilet training in a really busy schedule. If you're working outside of the household, it probably means that you're going to have other people helping you with toilet training. So get all those people together and talk about the toilet training process and ask them, do you think my child's ready to start initiating the process? What have you noticed when you've been working with them? It's a great idea to put together a plan so that you're all on the same page. If there's consistency, then you're going to find toilet training happens a lot faster. I recommend that if you're going to be the primary person who's going to be initiating the process, that you start at home with using the first gear method, which I'll talk about more in the next workshop. Schedule at least 4 days if you can to be based at home. And then once you start the toilet training process and the routine is established, then follow the same method when the child returns to their early childhood carer, so that there's consistency there, and therefore you're going to see success. Now, with consistency being the key, what you want to do is you want to try and avoid using disposables to cause confusion and undermine the great work that your child has already done. And I do see this a lot, where there's a lot of parents who do all this really great work at home, but then if they send their kids to kindy or daycare or their nanny or wherever else they're going, that they'll put their kids into disposables. And the problem with this is that actually over time, if you consistently do this, you're giving your child mixed messages. You're saying to them, on the one hand, you need to wee in the toilet, and then on the other hand, you're saying, oh, I'm putting your nappy on. I don't really trust that you're going to be able to wee in the toilet. And basically, you can use a nappy and that's okay. And that inconsistency just slows down the process. So try to avoid using disposables except for when your child's sleeping. If they're awake and you're toilet training them, then they should really be in undies. Choose who's going to be the head cheerleader and the support crew. So who is the person who's going to be initiating the process with your child, and who are going to be the people who are going to be supporting in that? If there's one person that's consistently driving it and being the cheerleader, and the other people who are working alongside being like the wingman or something, then you're going to find it a lot easier. Try to use the same potties and the same toilets for the first few days. It just reduces the variables. So for example, if I was to start toilet training my daughter, and I was going to take her out to the shopping mall, and then I was going to take her to mainly music, and then I was going to take her home and we were going to use that toilet, and then we were going to go to my mum's house and use that toilet. To expect that in all those places, she's going to feel comfortable and she's going to be able to use the toilet in all of those places and not have accidents is probably an unrealistic expectation. And I need to adjust my expectations in this case and say, you know what, we're just going to stay home. We're just going to use the same potty and the same toilet for a good couple of days so that we can actually get into a really good habit and not be confusing, racing from one toilet to the next in the hope that we don't have accidents along the way. You're going to love this, because if your child's not ready to start toilet training, or maybe they are, there are things that you can do right now. So literally you can stop watching this workshop and you can go and start to implement these things, and they actually do work in helping your child to develop some skills that are going to make toilet training so much easier. Now, the first thing is that it's a great idea if you can get some useful resources. You don't want your child falling in the toilet, right? So if they're going to use the toilet, then you need some kind of insert that they can sit on so that they feel safe when they're on the toilet. So this particular one is a toilet insert, and this one here is actually a portable one which you can fold up, and it has a little bag that goes with it. So if you're really averse to your child sitting on a public toilet and you'd rather them sit on a toilet insert, which is a bit smaller, you're going to find this really, really useful, and you can just fold it up and put it into the nappy bag with their change of clothes. One other really essential thing, apart from a toilet insert, is to have a step stool. Now, with a step stool, you need to make sure that their feet are grounded. So in other words, when they're sitting on the toilet and they're maybe doing their poos, they actually don't have their legs flailing around, but instead, they're able to sit there and feel really safe and secure. And to be honest, you need a step stool anyway for them to be able to wash their hands. So it's just a jolly useful piece of equipment. You could also use it if your kid wants to help with cooking in the kitchen with you and for other things around the house. You'll see on the side of this one that I've got, it actually has two handles on it, and then it has two rubber mats, one on the bottom step and one on the top. So your child's not going to slip on the plastic. It also has little rubber bits on the bottom, like little feet, which stop it sliding across the wooden floor. These wee pants are fantastic if you don't want to have puddles on your carpet or puddles on the carpet at kindy and daycare. Because they're really super absorbent, they act, I guess, as a disposable pull-up. So instead of giving your child mixed messages and putting them back in disposables, you can put them in something like this, which you know is going to be able to capture most of the wee, and therefore you're not going to be worried that you're going to have puddles everywhere. And if your child is prone to falling asleep in the car seat, then you could use a wee mat. You can see the wee mat here with the little girl. She's sitting on a red one here, and it just tucks up around her legs and over the buckle of her car seat. And if she accidentally wheezes, then you can just take that mat, put it into the little bag and take it home to be washed. And it avoids you having to wash the whole car seat and all the fabric, which can be really time consuming. So these are just a couple of really useful resources. I'd say if I looked at this list, the most important thing I think is a step stool, and some kind of insert is pretty important as well. But obviously you need to, choose what's going to work best for your child. Now, things that you can do right now to get them ready is actually to avoid giving large volumes of fluids before bed, and to get them into the habit of drinking lots and lots of water. Because constipation is the major problem when it comes to toilet training, and you want to try and avoid them holding onto their poo and getting gummed up. So if you're a parent who is giving lots of juice and other kind of fluids, try to reduce that and give as much water as possible, because at the end of the day, that is like the best liquid that they can be having in terms of avoiding constipation. The other thing that you can do is transition them into a bed that they can get in and out of. Now, I don't advise that you day and night train at the same time. I think the best thing to do is to leave your child in nappies at night and just focus on daytime training. But if they're anything like my kids, you might find that your kids day and night train at the same time, and therefore they're going to need to get out of their cot and come and find you at night to tell you they need to go to the loo. They really need to have that level of independence. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not essential. You can still toilet train a child who is in a cot, because obviously it's mostly happening during the day and it's not really an issue. But to be honest, I've found the transition of going from a cot to a big kid bed to be something that's a bit unsettling for a lot of families. And if you can tackle this stage before you tackle toilet training, you're on to a winner. The other thing that you can be doing right now to get them ready is to teach them the skills of hand washing. So before they eat, they need to wash their hands. And that's a really, really great skill that then they can transfer into their normal life, not just in their toilet training journey, but before they get to the toilet training journey. And then when you kind of come to do the process, they've already got a whole lot of things that they can do so well, like pulling up and pushing down their pants. You could get them to do that in the morning when they're getting dressed, or maybe when they're in their dress-up clothes and they're getting changed. It's just to start encouraging them to learn how to do that independently. Another thing that you can do to get them ready is to introduce toilet training words. And a lovely way to do this is just to integrate it into what you're already doing with reading them stories. Or you could watch YouTube cartoon characters walk them through the process. So those are two kind of ideas, particularly if you've got an older child. Obviously, if they're really young, like under 2, then you probably wouldn't get as much benefit from this. But if you've got a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, then they're going to be a lot more into reading stories, and they're going to have the attention span and really start to understand that using the toilet is a normal part of everyday life, and they start to learn the language of what they need to do and how they need to do that. And it's a lovely idea to draw attention to how big kids they know don't wear nappies. For example, oh, look, your cousin is such a big kid because he uses the toilet and he doesn't need to wear nappies anymore because he's such a big boy, isn't he? And so you can kind of actually draw attention to how clever kids are when they don't wear nappies. Another thing that you can do to get them ready is to check that there are no medical issues. So I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier with the water thing. But if your child has constipation, a urinary tract infection, or diabetes, all of these things work against you. So if you can try and get on top of those things and making sure that your child's healthy, then that's going to be the optimal soil for toilet training. Another thing you can do is introduce toilet learning through play. On the right-hand side here is a toilet training doll where you pour water in the top and then the water comes out. So if you're planning on investing in some kind of doll in the future, why not purchase a toilet training one so that they can actually start using that, and they can take it in the bath and put water in the top and then wheeze will come out, and they start getting used to it. So introducing toilet learning through play is something that's highly motivating for a toddler. Another thing that you can do to get them ready is to allow them to really have ownership and involve them in the process. So it might be that you get them to choose the colour of potty that they want to choose, or maybe they choose the pattern of the big kid undies that they want, or maybe you could use a potty sticker. All of these kinds of things are giving them ownership and getting them excited about it. And that all helps. Even if you've already gone and bought them something, maybe you could wrap it up and introduce it that way by saying, I've got this really cool present for you that I'd love to give to you today, and just kind of build a bit of excitement around the fact that this is going to be such a great stage. I know with my second son, what we found highly motivating was when his grandparents came back, and they had been over in Europe, and they travelled through Hong Kong on their way back to New Zealand. And when they were in Hong Kong, they went to the markets and bought some undies that had Thomas the Tank Engine on the front. And at the time, my son just loved Thomas the Tank Engine. He thought it was awesome. So putting him in undies like that was really helpful, and that kind of made him excited and gave him ownership of the process. Another thing that you can do if you've already got a potty, or maybe you're going to buy one soon, is to put a potty in the bathroom and encourage them to try and catch a wee. When the bath water's filling up is a great time when there's water running, or to encourage them to sit on the potty when you are on the toilet. Now, this is particularly if your child has an interest in the toilet and others using it, which is a really, really good sign that your child is starting to become interested. And you can add that as another sign of readiness if you like. If you have a child who wants to follow you in and hand you the toilet paper and flush the toilet and wants to play in there, that's often a sign that they're starting to become a lot more interested. So if you're sitting on the toilet, why not encourage them to sit next to you on their potty and have a go and see if they can do a wee? And it's a lovely way of integrating the potty into your everyday life without it having to be a big, serious discussion and a big talk. It's just what we do in our family. Keep a record of when your child is doing number ones or number twos and see if there's a pattern. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if your child has a poo after breakfast, then put them on the potty after breakfast and you might have some action. Another thing that you can do now to get them ready is to give your toddler regular opportunities for some no nappy time. So if you're at home and your kid's playing, then why not take their nappies off and let them have a run round with just their undies on or their knickers on, and let them experience what it is to feel wet and to get used to that, wheeze running down their legs, or, put a potty out for them and make that available if they want to use it. The next thing that you need to do is get yourself ready by becoming more informed and making a plan. So we're going to take a little pit stop now. So if you grab your piece of paper, hopefully you've been taking some really great notes and you've got some great ideas. And I want you to write down at least 2 steps of what you're going to do from here. So having already talked about how we're going to prepare our kids, and we've already talked about some of the signs of readiness, what are the steps that you're going to do from here that are going to be able to set your child up for success? I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. Okay, fantastic. I always love, out of my workshops, for parents to be able to walk away with practical things of giving you a focus that will actually be able to show you that the next step is just one more step ahead of you and that you have what that step needs to be. We're going to move on now because I want to ask you, why did you turn up today? It may be because you would like support and that you really want to be able to make a smooth transition, and you want to go from nappies to underwear, but you just don't know how to make that transition a really smooth one. And that you really want to be able to make it as easy for your child as possible, so it isn't like a massive mountain to climb, but so that you and them feel really relaxed about this next step in your journey. And maybe because you don't know where to start, and you're getting lots of conflicting information from different sources. So maybe like the daycare teachers are saying you need to do it this way, and your coffee group friends are saying doing it that way, and then if you go to Google it says do it this way, and you just don't have time to read books, and it's like I don't even know where to start. I just want to know the answers of what I need to do. What's the next step of what I need to do? Or maybe you're feeling pressure from family or daycare or yourself to move on from the nappy stage. Maybe you've joined me today because changing nappies has become a lot more challenging. And if you're anything like me, it would feel a little bit more like you were trying to put nappies on a cat or an octopus than it was a child, because really they would not lie still and they just wanted to play with the nappy cream and help with the nappy and put their fingers in where they shouldn't be. And you would just be like, oh my goodness, just keep still so we can get this done. And it started becoming quite challenging. Maybe you're looking for a proven roadmap to help you navigate this stage. It might be because you're ready to save money on buying daytime nappies and you're looking for a way forward where you really want to avoid the messy puddles on your carpet. And that might be something that you're really thinking about right now of like, actually, I don't really want to take my child out of nappies because I know that inevitably there are going to be weasel on the floor. And so how am I going to make this transition as smooth as possible so that doesn't happen? I hope you really get this one thing, and that is toilet training does not have to be a stressful process. Remember this one thing, and that is that going on this journey and discovering strategies that worked changed my family, and I want to help your family. I can give you an adaptable plan. It is something that you can use as a starting point in your journey. A process that can be followed just like the other parents that I've coached. And over the last 7 or 8 years of me doing these workshops, I've literally coached hundreds of parents using these methods. Remember that toilet training doesn't have to be stressful and it doesn't have to be a messy process. I want to introduce you to my online e-course, which is set up to help you. The course is called Kids Learning to Use the Toilet with Less Mess and Stress. In this course, I'm going to give you confidence by helping you to formulate a plan. we will look at how to get your child on board, what to do when they sit on the toilet and do nothing on it, and how to catch a poo in the toilet. In this e-course, we look at different modules. One of them is motivating your toddler to use the toilet. So how do you get a child to actually sit on the potty or the toilet long enough to do anything on it? How do you motivate them when they're really, really happy to just stay in nappies and to keep weeing and pooing in them? How do you transition them into getting them into undies and make it sound like it's so exciting that it's something that was their idea that they really want to do? Motivation is one of the absolute keys. Starting at the right time and having a motivated child are two things that make a huge difference. So in this, we're going to look at, does using sticker charts actually work, or is there an alternative that is better? How to use the power of play and their love of games to get them wanting to use the toilet, and what to do if they're scared, anxious, or stubborn. How to avoid the battles and constant reminders. And it's really common for parents to kind of hover around the toilet or the potty and to kind of, put pressure on their kids. Have you done anything yet? And how's it going? Or maybe to go to your child when they're playing and say, it's time to go to the toilet now. Do you need to go wheeze? Have you got some wheeze waiting to come out? And in the end, your child's just looking at you and saying no and shouting at you because they actually just want to play. So how do you avoid those battles and the constant reminders and actually get them using the toilet, and so it's a positive experience for them? Another module we look at is choosing the right method. And this is the first module that I'll send you in the series. And in this method, we're going to be looking at this module for how to introduce the toilet learning process. So how do you actually start? Transition them out of nappies and into undies during the day. Different methods that you can adapt to your child's needs, and a step-by-step guide to follow as a starting point for this whole process. So it's literally, I hold you by the hand and say, okay, this is one method that you can try. And here's some examples of how other parents have used it. Okay, let's have a look at another method. Maybe this would suit your parenting style better. Maybe this would suit your child's personality better. If you've got this type of personality of child, then I recommend this one. And we actually go through the process of showing you all the different ideas, and then you can actually formulate your own one that you know is going to work for your family and for your child. This e-course also includes exclusive access to the Lulu crew. Now, it's a private Facebook group which I'm going to set up for parents, and it also includes a parenting coach in there which is going to support you in the journey. So if you're halfway through and your child's having accidents and you don't know what to do, then just ask a question. We're there to help you. And because it's a private group, you know that not everybody on the internet is going to be seeing this information. So it's a great place to ask a question or two, and also to share what's working really well for you in the journey, to encourage other people who are on the same journey at the same time as you. It's really important for you to know that you're not alone and that you have support of all of us working with you. Now, remember at the start, I talked to you about the fact that I want to give you a free gift, and that is a personal copy of Potty Talk. It's a toilet training how-to guide, and I want to send it to your inbox so that you can have it to read whenever you're ready. So even if you think, okay, I can see by the signs of readiness that my child is not quite ready. They're not really showing an interest in the toilet. They don't really have bladder control. And now's not really going to be the right time because they're not in a settled routine. However, in 2 or 3 months' time, it might be the case that they are like that. So to have the Potty Talk book and to have all these resources available and waiting for you when you're ready, for you to play whenever you want, is going to be the ultimate. And that's why I want to be able to gift this book to you today. So let's go back to your piece of paper, and hopefully on the top of your piece of paper somewhere, you've got a number of how many nappies your child goes through in a day, in a week, in a month, and in a year. Now, let's work out how much money that you've spent on nappies just this year alone. So in a year of your child being in nappies, how much do you think you might have spent already? The average disposable nappy user is spending about $25 New Zealand dollars, that is, per week on nappies per child. Now, obviously, it's dependent on how often you're changing the nappy and what kind of quality of nappy you're using and what price that is. But on average, it's around about $25. My goodness, that starts to add up when you think it's $100 per month. And then you multiply that by 12 for how much you're spending per year. It's an awful lot of money. And certainly it's something that all of us would much rather be putting into something else. It's not just the financial cost, it's also the time, and it's also the impact on the environment. In New Zealand alone, 1 million nappies go to the landfill every day, which is pretty mind-boggling. Now, for the cost of a small packet of nappies, you're going to be able to have access to my Potty Talk book, which is my free gift to you today, the module on choosing the right method, where I'm going to walk you through step by step how you actually toilet train and how you go through the toilet learning process and motivating your toddler to actually want to use the toilet or the potty and do the business on that and not on your carpet. You'll also get support in a private group where I'll be there to answer your questions along with other parents on the journey with you. How much do you think all this would cost? It's hours worth of ideas and resources for only $47. However, I'm going to give you a discount today where I'm going to offer you a limited time special rate of only $29 for all of that goodness. You can grab your seat for this e-course at lulu.co.nz/workshops, or I'll send you an email and send you the link so that you can grab this special offer. I really look forward to working with you, and I can't wait to hear the story of how much easier it's been than you thought it was going to be, and knowing that you're supported. It's just going to feel like we're all working as a team to be able to cheer you on and to say you can do it. And toilet training does not have to be this massive mountain to climb, but rather it can be a bridge to cross as you move through the next stage with your child. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And if you have time today, I would love it if you could go to lulu.co.nz/contact and leave me a message and let me know what you found most relevant. Not only that, if you have any questions about the e-course that I'm going to be running, or maybe you've got a question about something that I've talked about today, why not drop me a question? I'd love to hear from you soon. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I look forward to hearing from you. See you later.